Norm Cash was one of the craziest guys ever to play baseball. Can somebody tell a Norm Cash story that actually is clean that we can tell in front of everybody?
The pitch to Cash. Ground ball, right field, base hit. Kayvon hitting to third. Here's the throw. It's going to be close. Nope, it's cut off. Norman Cash hit the first pitch, a sharp ground ball in the right field. The Detroit Tigers he faces this afternoon. Pass hits his first pitch. Base hit. Another run is in. Kayvon racing to third.
And a lot of times we'd play a night game and then the next day was a day game. And when Norm came into the ballpark, you weren't quite so sure that he was going to make it to his locker. And we were all sort of tired from playing a night game and coming right back and playing a day game. But after he took a shower, jumped in a hot tub, took another cold shower, back into the hot tub, another cold shower, all of a sudden he would perk up, he would put his uniform on, and he'd jump up and he'd click his heels and say, "Let's go, boys, and get him." And you would say, "Well, if he can wake up, we can too."
When Norm came to the plate, I saw that he didn't have a baseball bat in his hand. I didn't know what it was. I didn't take it as Norm trying to distract me. I took it knowing Norm as a friend, that it was just his approach to being light at the moment, and also in a way saying that the way the game was going, that he probably had as good a chance of getting a hit with the piano leg as he did with the bat.
You enjoyed every game. You lived life on the field as well as off the field, and they attested that by Norm Cash. You know, there was a lot of games. Norm would come in the clubhouse, and I swear, dead drunk, I use the word. First thing he'd do, he'd go in the trainer's room, drink a bottle of Pepto-Bismol, get in the shower, take a hot shower and a cold shower, and he'd tell the pitchers, "If you can hold them for 7, I'll be ready."
Here's Robert Fick, another man who's counted on in the future, wearing Norm Cash's number 25. Remember, Al told him he'd hit a home run today.
Oh,
and he did!
that is!
There she goes! And it is on the roof!
You know, hitting home runs, and you don't know what it is playing with a guy like Norm Cash, but I guarantee you every team needs a guy like Norm Cash to win.
Imagine you are Nolan Ryan. You are 2 outs away from a no-hitter. The entire stadium is holding its breath. And then the next batter walks out of the dugout carrying a table leg. That was Norm Cash, and that moment tells you everything you need to know about the man they called Stormin Norman. Today, the legends of Major League Baseball are going to tell you exactly how frightening Norm Cash really was. On the field, in the dugout, and in the moments that defined an era. Drop a comment right now if you have ever heard of Norm Cash, and stay until the end, because what he did in Game 7 of the World Series will stay with you. Norm Cash grew up in Justisburg, Texas, a town so small that his school did not even have a baseball team. He started playing the sport because a group of friends organized a pickup game and needed one more body. That was it. No grand plan, no childhood dream of the major leagues. He was good enough at football to earn all conference honors in college. Baseball came second. And yet somehow this accidental ball player found his way to the Chicago White Sox, got traded once, then traded again 4 months later, and landed in Detroit in exchange for a third baseman who played exactly 4 more games in the major leagues before disappearing completely. The Tigers had no idea what they had just acquired, and neither did Cash himself have a name yet, not the name that would follow him for the rest of his life. That came from Tigers broadcaster Ernie Harwell, who said, "When Norman Cash lost his temper once in a while, I gave him the nickname Stormin Norman. I do not think he liked it at first, but after a while he started treasuring it." In 1961, every baseball fan in America was watching Roger Maris and Mickey Mantle chase Babe Ruth's single-season home run record. It was the story of the year. Nobody was paying close attention to the first baseman in Detroit, quietly putting together one of the most extraordinary offensive seasons in American League history. Norm Cash hit .361 that year. That was not just the best average in the league, it was the highest batting average posted by any player in the entire decade of the 1960s. He added 41 home runs, 132 runs batted in, and an on-base percentage of .487. On the road, away from his home ballpark, he hit .388. Only 4 men in American League history had ever hit 40 or more home runs while batting above .350 in the same season: Babe Ruth, Lou Gehrig, Jimmy Fox, and Mickey Mantle. Cash joined that list in 1961. Then, 20 years later, he sat down with Sports Illustrated and told the truth. "I owe my success to expansion pitching, a short right field fence, and my hollow bats." Cash had used a corked bat throughout the entire 1961 season. He did not just admit it, he showed the writer exactly how he made one. The American League was aware of the situation and chose not to investigate. Some Detroit fans were not forgiving. After Cash abandoned the corked bat in following seasons, a portion of the crowd began to turn on him, believing he was not performing to his ability. Cash responded the only way he knew how. "The only mistake I made in my whole baseball career was hitting .361 that one year, because ever since then, people have expected me to keep on doing it." He never hit .300 again, and pitchers across the league were still afraid of him for 13 more years. In 1961, every baseball fan in America was watching Roger Maris and Mickey Mantle chase Babe Ruth's single-season home run record. It was the story of the year. Nobody was paying close attention to the first baseman in Detroit quietly putting together one of the most extraordinary offensive seasons in American League history. Norm Cash hit .361 that year. That was not just the best average in the league. It was the highest batting average posted by any player in the entire decade of the 1960s. He added 41 home runs, 132 runs batted in, and an on-base percentage of .487. On the road, away from his home ballpark, he hit .388. Only 4 men in American League history had ever hit 40 or more home runs while batting above .350 in the same season: Babe Ruth, Lou Gehrig, Jimmy Fox, and Mickey Mantle. Cash joined that list in 1961. Then, 20 years later, he sat down with Sports Illustrated and told the truth. "I owe my success to expansion pitching, a short right field fence, and my hollow bats." Cash had used a corked bat throughout the entire 1961 season. He did not just admit it, he showed the writer exactly how he made one. The American League was aware of the situation and chose not to investigate. Some Detroit fans were not forgiving. After Cash abandoned the corked bat in following seasons, a portion of the crowd began to turn on him, believing he was not performing to his ability. Cash responded the only way he knew how. "The only mistake I made in my whole baseball career was hitting .361 that one year, because ever since then, people have expected me to keep on doing it." He never hit .300 again, and pitchers across the league were still afraid of him for 13 more years. Here's the thing about Norm Cash that most people miss. After 1961, his batting average never climbed back above .283. And yet, pitchers across the American League treated him like a loaded weapon for the next 13 years. The numbers tell you why. Cash hit 30 or more home runs 4 more times after his career year. He finished second in the American League home run race 3 separate times. He walked 1,043 times in his career, just 48 fewer than his total strikeouts. That means pitchers were choosing to put him on base rather than challenge him. In 1961 alone, he drew 124 walks, finishing just 2 behind Mickey Mantle for the league lead. And when pitchers did challenge him, Cash made them pay. Teammate Mickey Lolich once asked him directly why he never hit for a high average after 1961. Cash looked at him and said, "Jim Campbell pays me to hit home runs. I can get hits if I want to. Just watch tomorrow." Lolich later confirmed that Cash went 3 for 4 the very next day. What made Cash truly dangerous was something even his opponents rarely talked about. Beyond the power, he was one of the finest defensive first basemen of his generation. He led the American League in assists 3 times and in fielding percentage twice. Most hitters carry one weapon. Cash carried 2. Al Kaline, his longtime teammate, put it simply: he always came ready to play. People do not know this, but he often played injured, like the time he had a broken finger. There is a moment that captures Norm Cash better than any statistic ever could. During a rain delay, Cash was standing on second base when play was stopped. When the game resumed, he was standing on third. Another time, he was caught in a rundown between first and second, about to be tagged out. He stopped completely, turned to the umpire, and formed a T-shape with his hands, the universal signal for a timeout, as if he were coaching a basketball game. He was called out. He did not care. Then there was the afternoon he missed a foul ball that drifted into the stands. Without breaking stride, he walked over to a young boy sitting in the front row, turned the boy's cap around backwards, reached into his bag of popcorn, grabbed the handful, said, "Thanks, kid," and walked away, while the boy stared up at him in complete confusion. People sometimes mistook this for a lack of seriousness. Cash addressed that directly. "I have got to enjoy myself, no matter what I am doing. I get a kick out of playing the game. People see me this way when I am going bad and think I do not take the game seriously. I cannot help that. It is just my way." But when the pressure of a lifetime arrived in October 1968, the entire city of Detroit would learn exactly how serious Norm Cash could be when it truly mattered. By the middle of the 1968 season, Norm Cash was batting .195. Not slumping, not struggling, nearly invisible. There were real questions about whether he still belonged in a major league lineup. Then something shifted. Over his final 54 games of the regular season, Cash hit .333 with 12 home runs. He had saved himself. But the hardest test was still ahead. The 1968 World Series against the St. Louis Cardinals. Game 1. Bob Gibson on the mound. Gibson struck out 17 Detroit batters that afternoon, setting a World Series record that still stands today. Norm Cash was strikeout number 16. He walked back to the dugout and said nothing. The Tigers lost 3 of the first 4 games. One more loss and the season was over. Inside the clubhouse before Game 5, the silence was heavy. That is when Cash stood up. Pitcher John Warden was there and remembered it clearly. Cash was always the go-to guy. He was sort of the leader. It is the 5th game of the World Series, and Cash is in the locker room saying, "We have got them right where we want them. They are so tight over there. This is going to be great for us because we're going to win one for the home team." Detroit won Game 5, then Game 6, then Game 7. In the 7th inning of the deciding game, the score was locked at 0, 2 outs. Norm Cash stepped to the plate and singled, starting the only 3-run rally of the entire game. Detroit won the championship. Cash finished the series batting .385 with 5 runs batted in. While the world celebrated Mickey Lolich, it was Stormin Norman who lit the fire. July 15, 1973. Nolan Ryan was in the middle of something historic. Through 8 innings, not a single Detroit Tigers batter had reached base. Ryan had already struck out 17 hitters. The record for strikeouts in a 9-inning no-hitter was within reach. Norm Cash had come to the plate 3 times that afternoon. He had struck out all 3 times. Now it was the bottom of the 9th, 2 outs. one batter standing between Ryan and history. Cash walked out of the dugout carrying a table leg. Umpire Ron Luciano stopped the game immediately. "You cannot use that up here." Cash looked at him calmly and said, "Why not? I will not hit him anyway." Luciano sent him back for a real bat. Cash returned, stepped into the box, and popped out on 3 pitches. Walking away, he turned back to Luciano and said, "See, I told you." Teammate Jim Northrup was watching from the dugout and never forgot it. Broadcaster Ernie Harwell, calling the game live on radio, described it as a piano leg. And that small detail is why most people still remember it the wrong way. But here is what that moment actually was. Cash was not giving up. He was not making excuses. He was standing in front of 60,000 people, facing the most dominant pitcher alive, and choosing to meet the impossible with a smile. That is not weakness. That is a man who is completely comfortable in his own skin. And that, more than any home run, is what made Norm Cash truly difficult to handle. Norm Cash finished his career with 377 home runs, a batting title, a World Series ring, and 15 years of loyalty to one city. The Baseball Hall of Fame has never called his name. But here is what Cooperstown cannot measure. In 1999, when Tiger Stadium closed its doors forever, designated hitter Robert Fick chose to wear number 25, Cash's number, as a tribute. That final afternoon, Fick hit a grand slam that bounced off the right field roof. Stormin Norman was present in that ballpark one last time, even though he had been gone for 13 years. We open this video with a man carrying a table leg to home plate. That image stays with you because it tells you everything. Norm Cash did not need the world to see him as a legend. He just needed to play and to make people smile while doing it. Al Kaline said it best. "When you mention Norm Cash, I just smile." That is the legacy. Not a plaque, not a trophy. Just a smile on the face of every person who ever watched him play. If you believe Norm Cash deserves to be in Cooperstown, comment the word Stormin below. Share this video with someone who loves the history of this game. And if this story moved you, leave a like. It means more than you know.